Hey guys, LootWizard here with another Soulforge video. It is the first day of the week, so we got a new event and all things going on here in the game. Let's get right into it and check out the Soulforge. See what weapons are here, and then we'll go to troops. So for weapons, there's Death Spire. Deal 16 damage to all enemies boosted by all enemy towers. This weapon's really only good if you're in an event where there's towers. Outside of that, it's not good at all, and I just don't think it's worth crafting whatsoever, because even outside of, well, even for an event where you have towers, like, you can use like other weapons that do damage to all enemies. So in my opinion, it's just not worth it. This weapon here, I don't think this is really worth it either. Removes red gems, deals 33 damage to an enemy, boosted by gems removed. If the enemy is from blighted lands, deal double damage. So the weapon's only gonna really be decent if you have enemies that are from blighted lands, which is kind of hard to make sure that the enemy is using that kind of a troop, unless of course you use this weapon in an event where most of the enemies are from that kingdom. Now, Lockstone is an interesting weapon here. Gain a barrier, deal 31 damage to an enemy, and silence them. So the fact that you're getting barrier and silence is definitely a good thing. Relatively low mana cost, 13 green. But I wouldn't craft it in here because this weapon is a part of the event, so it's much better to just use your gems to buy it in the shop over there, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Once I get through the Soulforge, we'll check out the event that's going on right now, and then we'll take a closer look at this weapon. Way down at the bottom, we have Soul Reaper. This is one of those mana-generating weapons based on troops from a particular kingdom. In this case, it's Blighted Lands. I don't usually recommend these kinds of weapons unless there's like really good troops in that kingdom. But for Blighted Lands, there really is not really any great troops in that kingdom. Oops, I clicked out of the Soulforge. Let's go to troops. We'll quickly go through the summoning stones here for blue. Can't really say I recommend trying to get anything there. Green. Child of Summer is a nice empowered troop if you don't have it. Converts brown gems to red, and then it conjures a firestorm. Decent troop for mana generation. But I don't know if it's really worth trying to, gamble for it with the green summoning stones. Now that we have to use some summoning stones to complete some tasks for the campaign, you might want to save those a little bit. Nothing here for red. Yellow. I mean, Lord Ironbeard is a good dwarf troop. Deals triple damage if the enemy uses red mana, but again, that's the enemy has to be using red mana for you to to really take advantage of that. So it's hard. I don't really like troops when they have damage boosted by whatever or something that the enemy does, because there's no way where you can really predict what the enemy team is going to be like. Sunbird is an excellent troop all through the game in some sense. Better probably early to mid game, but late game I still do use it sometimes. But yeah, decent troop. If you don't have it, you might want to get extra copies of it now. Try to at least here for purple. Finally for brown, nope, nothing here that catches my eye. Moving on to legendary and mythic troops. We have Goblin King, we have Autumnal Imp, we have Bunny Nog, and then we have Artema here. So I'm going to go through these real quick. Goblin King is kind of an odd troop. Doesn't do any damage on its own. It does gain life, boosted by gems removed. It removes any gems that you choose, so you can maximize the amount of life that it gains. It does summon a goblin, and then it gains an extra turn. So it is useful in the sense of it will summon more goblins, and this includes the King Gobtruffle, I believe. So it is a useful troop in that sense, but there are way better goblins than this guy. So I would not craft him at all, even if you had diamonds to spare. Autumnal Imp is just kind of an odd troop here. Deals scatter damage, and it will destroy 10 gems. So there's a little mana generation. If an enemy dies, gain 8 magic. And then in its final trait here, it will gain 8 magic whenever you match brown gems. So you could use this troop with something like Mountain Crusher, get lots of brown matching, and it'll increase its damage. But is it like one of the go-to legendaries that you should you should have. Not really. It's more just kind of like a fun troop. So I wouldn't recommend crafting that either. Bunny Nog, I have been very critical of this troop in the past. Even after they buffed its ability, I still don't really care for it. Deals damage to an enemy, and if the enemy is a knight, it deals double damage, and then there's a 50 chance to devour knights. So this troop is really only efficient really against knight enemies. And like I said, I don't really care for troops that focus on what the enemy is, because you can't really predict what the enemy is going to be like. So then the final legendary troop here is Ortema, which it's an okay legendary troop. I don't use it that often, but it does have a little mana generation with the exploding arrow. It deals damage to the 2 weakest enemies, boosted by ally centaurs. Now, dealing 33 damage to the 2 weakest enemies, that's okay. Little mana explosion, but you're most likely going to want to put this troop at the top of your team to really maximize its damage potential, because it has 2 traits here: 50% chance to ignore armor with skull damage, and then 40% chance to dodge skull damage. So that's probably a troop that, if you have it, you want to build a team with it, you want to put it at the top of your team, which it's still a little weak, even with that 40% dodging skull damage. Once it does get hit, it's going to take that full maximum skull damage. So you might want to consider, like, if you do have it in a team and you put it at the top, that you want to have some other support troop that can, like, maybe put barrier on it to really make that more efficient. Moving on here to mythic troops, we have Death, we have Jotnar Storm Shield, and we have Fallen Valdis, and then we have Tina-9000. So I think you guys already know probably which one I'm going to say is the best this week, and that's Tina-9000. Without a doubt in my mind, it's the best mythic in all of these 4. Death really isn't that good. It death marks all enemies, then it deals scatter damage boosted by your life, and it's half of the life will deal scatter damage, or will be added to the current scatter damage on the card. It does steal 2 life from the first enemy at the start of each turn, which really is only going to be useful at low levels. So, like, if this is your very first mythic card that you get, it could be useful, because the enemy life is going to be much lower at lower levels. But after you get, like, even to level like 200, the life on enemies that you're going to be facing is going to be this 2 life per turn thing really isn't going to put much of a dent in them. And Deathmark doesn't really work. When it works, it's fantastic, but most of the time it doesn't work. Deathmark gives you a 10% chance on an enemy each turn to lethally kill it, but every turn that goes by, that troop has a 10% chance to recover from the Deathmark. So 10% chance is very, very low, and just Deathmark is not reliable. So I say this is probably the weakest, or close to the weakest mythic here. Jotnar Storm Shield is, kind of lower bottom tier. It's okay in some cases, like if you have a full giant team, that's probably where it performs the best. It deals true damage to an enemy boosted by barriered allies and giant allies. So that's why I was saying it works best probably with a full giant team. Now, its final trait is okay. It gives a random ally barrier on 4 or 5 gem matches. So that can really save your hide in a lot of battles to have that barrier. So a full giant team, it could be pretty good in some cases. But more of a defensive troop than an offensive one. And in my opinion, offense in the game is always has a higher rate of winning than purely defense teams or troops. So, but definitely I would consider Jotnar over Death. Then moving on to Fallen Valdis. Now, this is one of the mythic troops, the very few that I still do not own, but for good reason. One, I haven't gotten lucky, but the other is I just haven't crafted it yet, because I don't feel like that it's really worth crafting. Deal 33 damage to all enemies. So, I mean, that's probably the best part of this card. The most reliable part is that it will do damage. But consider that it's a mythic troop, so it has a much higher mana cost. And there are legendary troops that do damage to all enemies that can get, somewhere close to this. damage to all enemies here. So and it'll be some of those legendaries will be lower mana cost, so you'll be better off using a legendary card over this card. The other ability that it has is just really weird. It will explode 3 Doom Skulls boosted by divine enemies. Silence divine enemies. So, I mean, the silence divine enemies is good, but only if you're faced with a lot of divine troops. The explosion of Doom Skulls is just really weird, and then that is boosted by divine enemies. Because, I mean, one, we don't really, up until recently, we haven't had a really reliable way to create Doom Skulls. We didn't have, like, Doom Storms. We didn't have, like, troops that created a lot of Doom Skulls other than your Glaceon and your, what's the other one that I'm thinking of? King Bloodhammer. Then we got all the Doom weapons, and we got the Doom weapons that create Doom Skulls after this troop was created. So, like, now we have more ways to do that, but it's still kind of a weird ability. As far as its traits, it summons a Dark Storm when an enemy dies. It's immune to Poison, Disease, and Death Mark, and then it will disease a random enemy when matching purple gems. And in my opinion, like, this troop's, it'd be really hard for me to figure out ways to, like, really make this troop better. But one of the things right here is, like, this final trait, instead of, like, diseasing a random enemy, since it has this thing with Doom Skulls, I think that they probably could tweak this card and say that on a 4 or 5 gem match, it will start a Doom Storm. Like that, something like that to really synergize with the ability here that it's going to explode Doom Skulls. Otherwise, it's just a weird troop. Not that great. But Tina-9000, however, is fantastic. Deals true damage to 3 random enemies, and then it gains 70 armor. For you, it might be a little less, a little more. It depends on your current magic, but nevertheless, it still is a fantastic troop because, one, it's doing a lot of good damage. True damage is one of the best damage types in the game, and the fact that it's doing it to 3 random enemies means that if there's only 1 enemy left, it's going to be doing that damage to the same enemy 3 different times. So if it has barrier, it's going to take down the barrier the first hit, and then the next 2 hits, it'll just go straight to true damage. And then it'll add armor to itself. So it's very offensive and defensive at the same time. And its traits here, it will reduce damage from spells by 50%, and then it adds 50% of armor to skull damage. So Tina-9000, absolutely the best Mythic troop this week to craft. And it's one of the best in the game. I love that troop. It's still really powerful. So there you go, guys. That's my thoughts on the troops in the Soulforge this week. Tina-9000 is my recommended troop to craft. If you don't have it yet, you do have the diamonds to craft it. Moving on now to, let's check out the Blighted Lands here because I already selected it. This is what the kingdom that is the event kingdom this week. So if you're using your event keys throughout this entire week, these are the troops that you have a chance of getting. And as you can see, the only mythic is Abyssnia, which really is a poor mythic. It's not good at all. And then the legendary troops are Dark Monolith and the Infernal King. Infernal King is okay, but it's just, I don't think it's worth trying to spend your event keys trying to get any of these troops, because you could just wait until, like, there's a really good mythic that's available in a different kingdom, and then use your event keys and try to get that. That would be my advice. So moving on now to, I guess, the new troop for the week, which is Herald of Woe for 400 glory, and we get 2 arcane mountain trait stones per purchase. So that's pretty good. If you have any classes or troops that use the arcane mountain trait stones, now would be a good time to save up on those stones. Herald of Woe is a demon and knight troop, 13 mana cost, brown and yellow. It will destroy a row, gain 15 attack and armor, boosted by brown gems destroyed. The boost ratio is 5, so for every brown gem that it destroys, it will gain 5 extra attack and armor. So it does look like it, yeah, I mean, it's an okay troop. I won't probably use it a lot, but for what it's doing here, it's okay. As far as the traits, it will reduce damage from skulls by 25%. It inflicts death mark when doing skull damage. So It's an okay troop. I won't knock it down too far because it has some mana generation and then it does gain attack and armor. I do wish that it had more of like 50% damage reduction from skulls, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. We've had far worse troops than this one released, so I'll take it. Got that guy, and let's go pick up our Spoils of War. I do recommend doing this if you can get enough glory every single week to do it, because that's how you can get more event keys. And yeah, so moving on now to the current event, which is called Locked On. It is another one of these world events where we have medals and bonuses, either skull or spell damage usually for the medal bonus. We're going to go to the shop here and purchase our way up through. This is the locked on weapon, or the lockstone weapon here that I was talking about earlier. We're going to go ahead and buy all the way up through that just to get it. And also we need to get some of these potions, as well as it'll give us a medal too. Right now we just got a badge. I'm going to buy up until we get to the point of getting a medal. And of course we're going to check out the weapon a little bit. Alright, there's our first medal, Medal of the Damned. And so let's go equip that medal, I guess. We're going to go in here. Medal of the Damned. It's 160% skull damage for all troops in the current event. So we're going to have to take note of that, because when we build a team, we do want to focus on skull damage. So there we go, and we equipped the medal. Let's go take a look at the weapon real quick, because I want to see what the upgrades look like. Lockstone. And we're going to go ahead here, take a look at this. Okay. So it says drain 3 mana from the first enemy, inflict a random status effect to the first enemy. Huh. Okay. Not horrible, and the good thing is that right in its ability, it will gain barrier, and it will deal a little bit of damage, and then it'll also silence them. So that's a pretty good weapon there for defense. A little bit of offense, but mostly defense with the barrier and the silence. But that's pretty good. Now let's go in and try to build a team. Locked on. I don't even know what the restrictions are. Let's check it out. So it looks like troop restrictions, our troop type is demon, and our mana colors are green and brown. So let's check out and see what we got. So Doomclaw is available, which is a mythic troop. Elamagrum is available, that's a mythic. Famine, Gargantar, the new mythic troop, the Mamba Sira troop, is available. Mother of Darkness, Obsidious, Queen of Sin, the Possessed King, Vash Dagon. So it looks like those are our mythic troops here that we can use. And then legendaries, we got Glaceon, we got Gorgatha, we have Web Spinner, we have Wrath, we have Yao. You know, lots of interesting stuff here, but we do want to focus in on skulls, because that's where our 160% damage is going to be coming from. So, what troops are available to us to create skulls? Wrath is probably going to be one of the best. We also have Web Spinner, which does triple skull damage to webbed enemies. I wonder how powerful that'll be. As for a weapon, we'll have to check that out too, because we could use a doomed weapon that has skulls. We also have Glaceon. That's a good thing there. We got the Possessed King. We can take the Web Spinner out for now. And let's see what weapons we have available to us. Okay. So we have the choice here of... we have the Doomed Club, or we have the Doomed Glaive. Now, I know a lot of you won't have those weapons, but those are, if you do have them, they are excellent, because they're going to be creating Doom Skulls whenever you cast them, and that will be powerful in this event. We also have the Essence of Evil. Doesn't create skulls, but it will help for mana generation, and it will also Hunter's Mark the enemy, so when you do hit them with the skull, it'll be even more damage. So that's a possibility there. You could use Life and Death. Jar of Eyes is in here. That's a decent troop for, or weapon, I should say, for mana generation. So, but it's also going to create an ice storm, and I don't know if there's really any any troops that we have available that create skulls that use blue. So, just taking a quick look through the weapons here to see if there's anything else interesting. Trickster Shot is available, but at the same time, like, we try to focus on skulls, not spell damage. That's the whole thing here. But the other thing is you got Earth's Fury, which will help with the attack damage. You have that, or we have Mang. I saw Mang in here somewhere, wherever it be. Where are you, Mang? There you are. So, like, if I did this with Mang in here, and we went something like this, I mean, this would... probably not great synergy, but, you know... Mang is going to help you with that skull damage. For sure. So if we win banners and we just went like, let's see, brown, yellow maybe, so we can get some yellow for Wrath to power that up. You know, I saw that, you know, it's weird because like the Event Kingdom is Blighted Lands, but we can't even use Infernal King, which comes from that kingdom. But I mean, this early on, I don't even need to use a full skull team. Honestly. Like, but Mang will work pretty good. Let's go ahead and throw in Doomed Glaive. And this is going to convert brown gems to Doom Skulls. This will transform blue gems to brown. So it'll, maybe those two will go together pretty good. Yeah, and then of course you got Glaceon in here, so a team around Glaceon would be good as well. So if you wanted to, if you don't have a doomed weapon like this, you could do, since brown is a color, we could do Mountain Crusher. Or you could use Essence of Evil too, but the Mountain Crusher is really good for creating, where is it? There it is. It's really good for creating those brown gems, which is going to fill up Wrath, and it's going to fill up Glaceon. So, we could do something like this. Now, this is going to transform blue gems to brown. We don't really have any connections with that. And it's going to transform yellow to skulls. We don't have any connections with that either. So we're just going to have to explode the board once again. And hopefully things will line up a little better here. We do have red connection here, so Glaceon will work. And then we'll see where things go from there. And of course, you know, the Possessed King down here, if you have it, is great for that. Whenever 4 or 5 matches like that are connected, you're going to have those extra explosions, which does help for skull damage because that'll allow more things to fall down on the board, and you probably have some skulls connect. So that's a good troop there for that as well. Yeah, as always, these are just some of my ideas. I'm sure a lot of you guys can figure out teams that are probably a little more efficient. But the big thing, this the big thing in this event is skull damage. So you do need to find a team, troops that are going to be using skulls. So Glaceon is definitely a good troop to use. So, and Wrath is also fantastic. So those are probably the two. Let me go in here and check again on what skull troops we do have. It's unfortunate we don't really have any skull troops that are mythic. So for skull troops, well, you know, Gorgothi's here too for mana generation, but that'll block Wrath, so you do have to consider that. But as far as skull troops, we have Glaceon, Wrath. Web Spinner might be an option. It doesn't create skulls, but it does do that triple skull damage with webbed enemies. So that might be something to consider as well. You know, actually, let me just try something here. Let's put Wrath. Now, we'll do this. We'll replace Glaceon, and we'll put this guy up here. And we'll leave it to Wrath to create the skulls. And Mountain Crusher to do the generation. We can try that. But I'm just looking through here again. What other troops create skulls that we have available to us? I don't think any of these do. Well, this troop creates a Bone Storm. So that troop might be useful because that'll allow more skulls to fall down on the board. Other than that, I think we're pretty much stuck with Wrath and Glaceon to create skulls. Or you have to use a weapon to create skulls. So let's take a look at weapons again really quick. You know, these doomed weapons are probably your best bet for creating skulls. After that, I'm not sure if really any of these other weapons do create any skulls. Like I said, Mang is still a really great option. Because it will increase your skull damage. But it doesn't create skulls. I'm just glancing through here really quick to see if any of these weapons do create skulls, because if you don't have those doomed weapons, then it's like, well, what do you use as a weapon to create skulls? Okay, so the Writhing Staff is a weapon here that does create skulls. So that's probably your only option, apart from the doomed weapons, is the Writhing Staff here. It'll entangle if you do have it upgraded. Oh no, the entangle is in ability, so you don't even have to upgrade it for that. It deals scatter damage, creates 8 skulls, entangle the first enemy. So that right there is probably a nice go-to weapon if you want to generate skulls with your weapon. So let's go in and try this team with the Web Spinner. You know, I don't know how it all is going to calculate the damage. I am thinking that the triple skull damage on the Web Spinner will be multiplied by the 160%, but I don't know for sure. I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to do. Well, we got some yellow here. We can use Wrath. Boom. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for this video. That's basically my team ideas and what you can use for this event. So, hopefully you guys find some of that useful. and hopefully you have fun this week in the game. I did not complete my campaign last week. I was just too busy, and here we are. A week flew by just like that. And so I'll have to play a little catch up maybe this week and see if I can do that. But not much going on this week in Gems of War other than it's really just this one event. And then throughout the week we'll just have our usual stuff like the faction assault and on Tuesdays and whatever a pet battle on Wednesday, class trial on Thursday I think it is. But yeah, other than like the normal stuff going on this week, it's not really too much going on here. So probably this week I will record. I'll start my new series on the Might and Magic Clash of Heroes game. So look forward to that. Probably somewhere in the middle of this week I'll be recording my first episode of that. Looking forward to it. That ranked the highest on my community poll that's now been out for 2 weeks. And my plan is to play through an entire playthrough of that game here on the channel. And then after that, the next game that got the most votes was Borderlands 3. So I'll probably play through that game as well after Clash of Heroes and see how that goes. And then we'll go from there. There's other games too that I also want to play after that. But I can put up another poll with those games to see what you guys think at that time. So I appreciate you guys. Love you all. And thanks for watching as always. And I'll catch you on the next video. Later.